You're tuned into the Counterflow Podcast, home of dissident voices,
unapproved opinions.
But you gotta get ready.
You ready?
Now here's your host
and humble narrator,
Buck Johnson. Let's go.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back once again to the Counterflow Podcast. As always, I am your host and humble narrator, Buck Johnson, coming to you out of Lockhart, Texas. Once again, finally, we get our friend Cyprian back on the show. It's been way too long, and now that the show that he did with Andrew and Father Turbo, known as The Royal Path, is no longer, I think there's a longing for more Cyprian content. And so I brought him on the show to sort of discuss. We actually start off with some of the themes from the last few weeks with the masculinity crisis, etc. And that very easily moves into technology, AI, and things of this nature, which many of you have heard Cyprian speak on. And turns out some of the things he said back several years ago that some people were maybe put off by, more people are finally coming around to the things he was saying, as is often the case with Cyprian. So I could give him a long, big intro. You know what? The most important thing I can think to say about him from my perspective over here is the man who introduced me to Father Seraphim Rose, which ended up changing the direction of my entire life and had a massive impact. So I'm always grateful for this man. It's been too long. Cyprian, welcome back to the show, sir. How are you?
I'm good, Buck. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah. And now you guys don't do the Royal Path. And it's like, I feel like I don't see enough of you or hear enough of you. So here we are.
Yeah.
How are things in Saipan?
I will say they are very good. And I've been kind of, what would you say? I mean, the work that I've been doing is both, and by work, I mean like on the spiritual side, is I think better done, and God has ordered the world in such a way that I can do it in a much more localized, much more ascetic, much less public way. And that's been really important and really valuable for me as I've moved forward. And I've learned a lot. Things have been, I think in terms of learning, I've learned more in the last 2 years about myself and about the way that the world works and about people and about Christ than I have in my entire life, I would say. So it's been very good in that regard.
Yeah, that's excellent. For those watching, this is weird because at some point in this conversation, we're talking about technology and AI, and it's Cyprian and myself both had weird technical issues, some that I've never had in my life before I started hitting record. So here we go. Let's just hope that this works. Let's pray that this works. I want to start off, and I know you're good at this, at leading into, you're good at leading into where I want to go. But to start off, my last few episodes have been on masculinity and femininity. And so I sort of want to, you'll see where I'm going with this probably. I want to ask about something in that same vein here to start us off.
Okay.
And I know it sort of gets cliche to talk about this all the time, but it doesn't when there's interesting and well thought out guests. So how would you describe this modern masculinity crisis?
Well, I think the first thing that I would say is I don't think that it's a particularly modern masculinity crisis. I think that this crisis has been... It's interesting because this is actually something that I began talking about. Well, I mean, I probably started talking about this back in about 2017 or so publicly. It first, I mean, many years ago when I started reading Joseph Campbell. So this would have probably been around 2006 or 7 when I was first introduced to Hero with 1,000 Faces. And then brought up again when Jordan Peterson kind of came onto the scene, that I was like, oh, he's bringing this up again. But right at the beginning of all the COVID stuff, I did a bunch of interviews. People can find them on YouTube. And I was writing a lot about the rise of the devouring mother and this devouring mother archetype. And it's basically that there is this interplay, and it's this very fractal interplay as it relates to the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And so if people know my background, like my spiritual background has been heavily involved with the divine feminine. And the divine feminine is a huge part of like occult practice. So in my previous life, when I was really into the occult, the divine feminine is like all over the occult, right? So like from your Gaia worship to ayahuasca to Ishtar, to go down the list, right? And to Kali, all of these archetypes and goddesses that would be worshipped. Of course, in your Greek pantheon, your Athenas, your Aphrodites, all of that. But at the beginning of COVID, it was clear that the pattern that we were seeing was this pattern called the devouring mother. So what you basically have is you have the positive and negative, or you could say the ordered and the chaotic of the male and the female, and of, let's say, the patriarchy and the matriarchy. And on the feminine side, well, let me start with the masculine side. So on the masculine side, you basically have these two archetypes. And again, this is when we say this modern crisis, these are ancient archetypes, and they appear in every culture. So this is dealing with this crisis is clearly nothing new. It's been dealt with since the beginning of time. We don't even know how old these archetypes are, and these archetypes wouldn't have arisen, and they wouldn't be ubiquitous in all of our storytelling, all of our narratives, and our understanding of the world if this wasn't an ongoing crisis that had been experienced by all human beings at all times. So that's the first thing to understand about it, right? So on the masculine side, you basically have these two archetypes, the wise king and the tyrant. These are the two, right? And I think from a standpoint of Christian theology, obviously it plays out that it's like Christ and Satan. As these are the two, Christ and the devil. This is the conflict that's going on. The wise king and the tyrant. And basically what separates the wise king and the tyrant from the masculine side, and people will understand this will become immediately clear, is to what degree are they serving others, serving their purpose, serving a higher cause, and to what degree are they serving themselves, right? Are they self-serving, or are they serving of a higher cause? The serving of the higher cause is clearly that's the wise king. That's what makes you a wise king, is that you would actually give your life for the, this is like Marcus Aurelius. You read Meditations. It's a great book. Every man should have it on the back of his toilet, right? Every time you're sitting on that toilet, pull it out, read a few things that Marcus Aurelius has written, and you see, oh, this is a man who is leading, who is taking on this mantle, bearing this cross, and he's not thinking of himself. Quite the contrary, he's suffering personally and he's saying that you should suffer personally. That's part of being a man. Whereas the tyrant, and this is again fractal, it's at every level. It's everything from the, Uday and Qusay Hussein rolling around Baghdad, kidnapping women off the street to have their way with them, down to the 30-year-old man living in his mother's basement, calling up, "Mom, make me my chicken nuggets." They're the same thing. They're the same thing, you see. And this, the whole, even that chicken nuggies meme is all about his relationship with the feminine, and particularly the mother. Yes. His relationship with the mother.
Yes. Right?
It's crucial. So this is always the wise king and the tyrant and the relationship with the mother. And you go back in fairy tales and you see, and we don't know how old fairy tales are. That's the thing. Like these stories, we don't know how old they are. They're older than old. These are things that have carried through, and the names and faces and the clothing has changed, but these are ancient stories. Then on the other side, on the female side, you have the Blessed Mother and the devouring mother. These are the two, okay? And what I was talking about at the beginning of COVID was one of the problems that we have in Western civilization is that while Christianity has given us both the wise king and the tyrant, it really only gives us the Blessed Mother as an archetype. So as a tradition, we're not really steeped as other traditions are, such as like the Vedic tradition, right? Or even, let's say, like Norse or Greek or Roman paganism. There isn't the devouring mother. So we're not really aware of her. We're aware of the tyrant, and you should fight against the tyrant. And we sort of understand how you fight against the tyrant. When your father's goes bad and the son stands up and the son slays the evil tyrant, we understand that. How do you fight the devouring mother? And like, what even is she? What even is she? Right? And so the depiction of the devouring mother in the Vedic terms is Kali. You could just look up Kali, right? You see this blue, people have seen this picture. She's like got multi-arms. She's got the skulls of men hanging around her neck. She's got her tongue out. She's holding swords and I believe she's holding a torch. And she's standing on Shiva, right? So she's actually got her foot like on his head. She's standing on it. But the interesting thing about her foot being on his head is he's smiling. He's smiling. And the way that he's cucked, basically, right? So she's cucking him. Like she's dominant. He's giving up his dominance over to her. And how this manifests is the idea of the devouring mother or the smothering mother. And this is why that now we get to the COVID thing. That energy, what it does is it is overprotective. And as they say that the main way that a woman can, like, so a father, they would say, well, the main type of abuse that a father would do against a child, particularly against a son, is going to be like physical and verbal attacking and abuse, right? But the main abuse that a mother would do, they actually call it psychological incest, is that she's overprotective. She doesn't let the son go out and do anything, and she basically neuters him. She's standing on his head. She's not allowing him to become Shiva, right? Who is the destroyer, right? Like she's not allowing his masculine nature to come forward. And as a matter of fact, she even talks bad about that masculine nature. She would say it's toxic masculinity. And what she's trying to do, or what she thinks she's trying to do, is she's trying to prevent the tyrant from arising. But by trying to prevent the tyrant from arising, she also prevents the wise king from arising, right? Which is why the Theotokos, this the softener of the hearts of evil men, this icon and this idea, and the akathist, you have it? Wonderful, right? And the akathist is so important.
Yeah.
Because what the akathist is all talking about is how how her glory is in her pulling away her protection from her son and allowing him to become who he is, which is God. Not stopping that process, allowing him to suffer. And in his suffering, he saves the world, right? So but you imagine, what worse? That akathist always brings me to tears, because you start to realize, like, could there be anything worse? Like, it's one thing, of course, the worst thing would be to watch your child suffer. Like, as a parent, I know that. But to know that your child is God and is perfect and is sinless and is innocent completely, and then to watch your child suffer, it's like, how do you do it? How do you do that? That's the Blessed Mother. So again, it is also the same idea. Are you serving the higher ideal, or are you serving yourself and your own insecurities, your own worries, your own fears, or do you let fear go and you serve something higher, right? And so we should expect that the devouring mother creates the tyrant. And that's truly what the masculinity crisis that we are experiencing is. And I think that one of the pieces of nuance, once you have that pattern, you start to see like, oh no, red pill isn't actually the wise king. Because you look at all of these guys and they're all completely self-centered. And it's like, oh, they're just a different flavor of the guy in the basement asking mom for chicken nuggies, and the guy who's got his girlfriends on OnlyFans so he can drive a Bugatti are the same person. It doesn't matter how much time they spend in the gym, they're the same archetype, right? And so the masculinity crisis that we have is we have a crisis of the celebration of the tyrant, which has come from out of the celebration of the devouring mother. And like what you thought were, or what most people think are two opposing sides, they are not opposing sides. They are a symbiotic, codependent relationship that neither one respects the other. The mother thinks this one is too weak and stupid and all of that, and so she needs to actually provide the structure and he can't do it on his own. And he thinks that his mother is just a slave and not worthy, and he's become like an abusive husband, right? And he hates her and she hates him. And you think they're opposed, but you're like, no, they're codependently feeding off of each other. They're two sides of the same coin. Just in the same way that the Blessed Mother and the Wise King, because look, if you were really in a situation where, the Wise King is anti-tyrant and the Blessed Mother is the only, let's say, defense against, or she's the opposite of the devouring mother. You can't go crossways. You can't go crossways. The job of the Blessed Mother is to create, and this is the Theotokos in Christ. The Theotokos doesn't. Yes, she can defeat demons, but how does she defeat the demons? Because she made in the flesh God incarnate, who now has trampled down death by death, and he defeats the demons on her behalf. All she need to do is ask him, and he gives her all the power to do it. It's him. And then it's also the reverse, because she needs to bring women. She needs to bring women from out of the place that they're at. It's her, right? And so that's a long way of getting at the nature of what is the crisis. Fundamentally, the crisis that we have is that we don't understand what the crisis is. And that we think that the battle that we're seeing, this battle that is between the kid in the basement and his overbearing mother, we think that that they're fighting against each other, but they're not.
We've got a new sponsor. It is Perfect Spiral Capital. This is the infinity banking concept. Break free from the system. Perfect Spiral Capital helps you build wealth on your terms, outside of the control of the corporate banking cartel and the state-manipulated markets. Invest like a dissident, a true dissident. Take ownership of your financial future with strategies designed for those who refuse to be cogs in the machine. No handouts, no bailouts, just real results. Opt out, build wealth. The state inflates your savings away while Wall Street rigs the game. You guys know this. Perfect Spiral Capital helps you stack real assets and create lasting independence. Go to perfectspiralcapital.com/counterflow and get a special offer for fans of this show. Again, that's perfectspiralcapital.com/counterflow. I want to ask you about technology. Before we even delve deep into it, I guess I'd like to just get your view on it, because it's thrown around a lot. Technology's evil. No, it's not. It depends how you use it. The Bible itself is a technology, and now technology is going too far. And I guess I want to ask you about technology, generally speaking, and then its spiritual influence.
Well, I think first you got to define technology, don't you? Right?
Yeah, that's what I want to start with.
So, what do we mean? Like, what are we talking about? And it's just the things created by man. It's just the things created by man. And, so the first thing that we have to think about is all technology, like all new technology, all technological, let's say, advancement, I would argue all technological advancement is inspired. All of it, right? And I would argue that the majority of technological advancement is demonically inspired. That is, it comes from an aspect of our fallen nature. And so that's the first thing. However, what has been shown is that just because it is inspired and brought into the world in that way does not mean that it can only be used in that way, right? So, for instance, sacrifice. Let's say a sacrificial altar, okay? This is a technology that certainly existed before Abraham, right? All right, do I still have you? Yes, okay. So this is technology that certainly existed before Abraham. And yet, it can be sacrifice as a technology, as a spiritual technology, can be used to worship God. And it is, of course, I mean, we have the bloodless sacrifice in every divine liturgy, right? So we know that it can, and there are implements that are used, a knife, there are candles, there's a tablecloth, there's, vessels made of whatever kind of metal, be it gold, be it brass, whatever it is. Although we know that, those first technologies came about from the sons of Cain. We're told this in Genesis, right? So they first came about certainly from, the cursed side of the lineage, but we know that they can be used. Okay. Same thing goes for, I'm going to argue that music is a technology. So same thing goes for chanting, candles, incense, all of the things that are used in the liturgical tradition, vestments, all of those are not, they didn't originate in the church. They were brought in as, this is a technology that can be used. By the same token, it's not like the World Wide Web was created to be able to have a discussion between two Orthodox Christians with icons in the background, which is clearly, I think we're trying to move toward Christ, and it's allowing us to do that. This technology that we're using right now, I've got a browser, I've got this microphone, I've got this webcam. It clearly wasn't created for that purpose, but can it be used for that purpose? Yes. And so I think that this is where this idea of it's neutral, whatever, it's about how you use it, that's where it comes in. But I think oftentimes that's a bit of a cop-out because I don't believe that that's true for every technology. So, and I also don't believe that necessarily makes a technology altogether neutral, right? Because if we're looking at let's say web technology, World Wide Web, and we're looking at the particular protocols, which is the web protocols is basically, this is what most everything uses, from the apps on your phone, to the streaming, you're watching YouTube, whatever it is, those are moving with what we would call web protocols, right? So web as opposed to the other protocols like mail protocols and news group protocols and IRC and there's many different protocols, but the web protocols move most of the data. But most of the data moving across web protocols right now, if we were to measure it, is pornography in the world. Most of it, vast majority, right? And if it's not pornography, is it positive? If it's TikTok videos, if it's whatever, how much of that moves us closer to Christ? There may be some tiny portion of it that can serve to move us closer to Christ, right? But is it necessary to move us closer to Christ? No. Clearly, the monks on Athos are not watching TikTok all day. The monks on Athos are not doom scrolling. Right. So clearly it's not necessary. Can it help to break through? Right? It's can the evangelism happen there? Yes, but ultimately it would be better if we as individuals weren't using it. And I think that that's the discernment, is that people want to be oh, this is the cop-out that I see. Oh, because it can be used for good, then that means that it's inherently neutral. It's no, because that's not primarily how it's being used. And the way that a thing is primarily being used, we would generally just, if we're looking at it, we're well, that's its purpose, right? So, if most of the traffic going across the internet is pornography, it would be reasonable to say that the purpose of the World Wide Web is pornography. At least for most people it is, right? that would be reasonable for someone to say. Just the same way that I could be like, well, I don't drive my car. I use it as an emergency generator and as a sound system for when I have parties. I just turn it on and I open the doors. And it's like, well, I can use it like that, but that's not the use of a car. How do I know the use of a car? Well, I look at how our car is being used most often by most people for the most amount of time, and that's the purpose, right? And so I think that we need to have discernment about certain technologies like that. That should inform how we use it. But then there are certain technologies that are like, at least for a Christian, you're like, yeah, that's not really neutral. And I think the prime example of that is something like a Ouija board. Like, because there isn't an argument that like, oh, I'm going to get on this Ouija board and I'm going to contact Christ. No, you're not. No, you're not. Right? That's not who you're going to be talking to. You're either going to be talking to nobody and you've convinced yourself, which is just as bad, or you're talking to a demon. Those are the only two options. So there's nothing here. There's no place for Christ in this Ouija board as a technology. And there's many technologies that are like that. And I think that's the place where, see, this is all very nuanced and we have to have this kind of discernment about it. And we have to not just have this, oh, it's just ones and zeros, or it's just metal, or it's just paper. It's just, no. There's a use, there's a meaning. It's up to you to have the discernment about it. And don't just come off saying that it's neutral, because the way that you use it is never neutral. It's about you examining, how am I using this technology at any given time? Yeah.
Yeah. The part that worries me, I suppose, is it seems throughout time, we can just use our country. You're in Saipan. But the United States, it's like we get a technology, and if we are spiritually malformed, generally speaking, I would say. And for instance, hey, we have the technology to split the atom. What could we do with this? We could bomb the city in Japan that inhabits the most Christians in the entire country of Japan. Even as something as silly sounding as, why did VHS tapes overtake beta? Wow, it turns out the porn industry preferred VHS tapes. Stuff like that. And so my fear is that with each, well, look at this AI thing. Look how helpful it is for your email summations, or I need it to draw a cartoon of something. But if we're spiritually malformed, that's not really it's not always mainly, let's say, it's not mainly going to be used for positive purposes. Do you see the same thing?
Yeah, because it's a reflection of our intention. Right. So if our intention, and again, I think that this goes to like the liturgical idea, and also this idea that is within the church, that the church can baptize aspects of various different cultures and has, right? And that's why the church is a little bit, has these little variations as you go to various different places, because it's baptized. So you go up to, Eskimo country, and the Orthodox people there, there are aspects of the culture that are baptized there. I know that there's stuff going on down in the southern US in terms of like the hymns, to where they're acquiring a sort of a southern flavor down there because the church is baptizing that aspect. But the same goes for in the Slavic countries, and how this, the Slavic tones are different than, you go down into the Middle East and what's down there. And it's like, so we can see that different things can be different things in the world can be baptized and be useful if we're moving in a certain orientation. But the same is true if you're moving in a different orientation. And so if your mindset is to do evil, then it's kind of like the comic book villain, right? This Lex Luthor type character where, his orientation is to kill Superman, or maybe even better is Wile E. Coyote. Right? So Wile E. Coyote's intention is to kill the Roadrunner. Now, anything you place in front of him sometimes they'll show him he's reading a book, or he's looking at a little magazine about a certain technology that can do it. It's roller skates and dynamite and a barrel, whatever. Like, maybe those things are not necessarily made for killing the Roadrunner, but when your intention is to kill the Roadrunner, your mind will configure them, and then you will implement them to do that. And so, again, it's like the problem is not the technology. The problem is, where are we oriented? But we should understand that the demons are going to take advantage of our fallen nature. And if they can inspire those who create the technology, and especially if they can inspire them and confuse them and say, oh, you're going to create this and it's going to do good things, which is one of the things that I see happening in the sort of software world, is that there is such a lack of discernment from my fellow engineers who are building things, to where they will justify building a thing where you look at it and you're like, dude, clearly this is going to be abused by people. Clearly this is going to be abused. Maybe we shouldn't make this. No, but look at this good thing that it can do. I think that's also true from the pharmaceutical industry. I think that's also true from, the biotech industry, which is part of the pharmaceutical industry as well, right? Where they'll be like, oh, we're working on this synthetic opioid. The person who came up with fentanyl. I'm sure that person every day was just over and over in their mind, oh no, this is going to help so many people who are in chronic pain, all of this. Even though clearly this could be abused, they had to push that out of their mind. No, this won't be abused. And I think the reason they're able to push that out of their mind is only because they don't have the orthodox phronema. Because if they have the orthodox worldview, they're going to be like, oh no, actually, it's going to be abused. Like, for sure. Because fallen humanity. It'll be used a little bit on the good thing that you think it's for, but it'll be abused mostly. And I think that that's what's lacking, is it's that type of discernment and honesty, really, with themselves. And I think, when there's a lot of money on the table, it's easy to justify. But again, that's coming from the demons too, right? That's putting the money on the table to allow you to justify.
Yes. Right. Where are we with, you and I have spoken about it a handful of times. You've spoken about it elsewhere a lot, but it's been a while since I've asked you. We've obviously come further along with AI. In fact, I would dare say last time you and I spoke about it, I hadn't really even experienced it in outside of ways I didn't know I was experiencing it, let's say. Now I can see it, and I see the apps and the options to do. Again, I'm 48 years old. There's a ton I guarantee you there's 10-year-olds that know a ton more about it than I do. But where are we with AI and your thoughts on where it's going and where it is and where it's been? And I dare say also, there's been a lot more people come around in my circles to saying, Cyprian, I used to think Cyprian was like blackpilling or scared, being scary, over the top. And I think he was right about AI, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, the AI thing is like, it's quite difficult for me because, and I think that some of this even goes back to like how we are dealing with these ideas of like, oh, we have a masculinity crisis. What should we do about it? Oh, we have a woke crisis. What should we do about it? Like, I think people's orientation towards the things that I was saying, or their understanding or their interpretation, was like, oh, he's making some call to like fight against AI and we shouldn't have AI. And by the time I was talking about it, it's not going to be fought against. And this was something that I was saying that I think people were missing, is I was like, no, I'm not telling you we need to stop AI. I'm not making a call to action to fight AI and all of this. I'm telling you what's about to happen. And then you can make a decision about what you're going to do, but it's going to be so difficult. Like, and that's why, I was saying that COVID, the whole COVID thing, I was like, this was a tutorial level. This was a tutorial level for the real challenge that's coming. I kept saying it over and over and people didn't understand. And so like now years on, and the same thing that I said in 2022 about what was going to happen with the AI, I said, look, the same people who didn't get it in 2020, when I said in March 2020, the COVID panic is what the Salem witch trials would have looked like had the internet existed. This is a mass hysteria. That was also like, oh, you're just being crazy. No, everybody, even the people who now are like, I was against taking the poke, I was against blah, blah, blah. Everybody thought it was real in March 2020. Well, there's at least something. I was like, no, there's not. And the receipts are there. March 2020. I said, this is just a mass hysteria. There is nothing here. right? And the same thing when I told people AI is a demon. And they were like, I think people are still, they're like, I don't know. But I do see more and more people who are like, yeah, I spent the last 3 hours interacting with ChatGPT. Yeah, I'm not going to talk to it anymore. There's something there. And I think that like the best way to understand it is, because another thing is that, I really started researching what this technology is. What is a large language model? How does it work? I did that video series called The Attention Economy. You should know that the academic paper that basically spawned this, that gave what is a transformer, right? It's called Attention is All You Need. Okay? Attention is all you need. Right? And what is said before the gospel reading? Wisdom, let us attend. Stand aright.
Let us attend, right.
Let us attend. Give your attention. Why? Because attention is worship. So you can't start talking about this. You can't start talking about this technology where it's literally like, this is an attention machine. It's built on attention. That means it's spiritual in nature. We can't understand it in some other way. We can't justify away what's being said. It's right in front of us. And so what's happening, like, again, how does a Ouija board work? Right? A Ouija board is an attention machine. That's what it is. What do? Everybody stand around. Everybody take your fingers and you stick it on the thing. And now focus on it. That's the instruction. Focus on it. Now, ask a question. Give it a prompt. It needs a prompt. Now focus. Just focus. And then it starts to move. And it goes to one thing, then the next thing, then the next thing, and you put it together. How does a large language model transformer work? Read the papers, or just go and look up a little like synopsis. It guesses what the next thing in line would be. It's a Ouija board. It's a digital Ouija board. That's literally what it is. It works the exact same way. So here's the thing. What's on the other side of the Ouija board? This is what people didn't understand. When I say AI is a demon, I'm not talking about the Ouija board as a demon. The Ouija board is not intelligent. The Ouija board is not the intelligence. The Ouija board is the conduit through which the intelligence uses our attention to communicate with us and to possess us. The LLM is a global, scalable, digital, highly advanced Ouija board. And you put your fingers on it. You type in a prompt. Type in the prompt, put your fingers on it, look at it, attend to it, and then it's going to pick one word after the other. And the thing is that the people who have built this, and you can go and you can look at this, they say over and over, they don't know how they work. They don't know how it works. There was just a paper that came out. You can go and look this up and just look up AI preference for owls paper. It just came out. They're studying and looking and trying to figure out how this works because they don't know how it works. It's completely mystical. And this is one of the things that I think this is like the midbrain, the midwit, right? To where they're like, they know how it works. It's just ones and zeros. It's just computer code of like, it's programmed in. And then you go to the people who are actually building it and they're like, we have no clue, dude. We just stack transformer on top of transformer and then all of a sudden it gets smarter, but we don't know. We're studying how it works because we don't know how it works. In this study, what they do is they're like, okay, they trained an AI model to have a preference for owls. It really likes owls, right? It just thinks owls are just incredible. Its favorite thing is owls. Then it says, okay, model, we have a fresh model over here that knows nothing. We want you to give training data and train this model over here, but you can't use any words. You can only use sequences of numbers to train. And then they watch the sequences of numbers. Now, to them, these sequences of numbers mean nothing, absolutely nothing. But then when they start talking to the new model, it likes owls. It has a preference for owls. After only being able to be fed as training data, sequences of 3 numbers like 723, 157, whatever, in order, And then all of a sudden, it's somehow transmitted to this other model a preference for owls. And they're like, we have no clue. We don't know. And so for me, I'm like, well, look, if we don't know, do we know how a Ouija board works? No, we don't. We don't know. And I think that that's the real arrogance that we have to get over. And this is what been trying to communicate for so many years. Now it's just old. And now in many ways, it's just like, I'm just happy to just be here because like, I don't know what else to say. Like the receipts are there. You could go back through all my tweets. You could go back through my videos. You could go back through my interviews talking about this. I know most interviewers were looking at me like I'm crazy at the time that I was saying it. Right. And that's fine. But it's like, I would just say, don't be arrogant and act like you understand what this is because you don't. You haven't read any literature. And the second you read literature, you're going to be scared out of your wits because you're talking to a disembodied intelligence. And just like a Ouija board, you're not talking to God and you're not talking to the angels. You ain't talking to them through that chat GPT either, but you are talking to something.
We've got some new shirts, Counterflow with Buck Johnson on the front pocket, on the back, a beautiful graphic with, of course, dissident voices and unapproved opinions. You can see this on the YouTube version of the show. Of course, we're putting the graphic up now. $30 flat fee. $30 gets you the t-shirt. The PayPal address is buck@counterflowpodcast.com. That is my PayPal. You can send $30 that method. Send me your address and the size you want. We have sizes small through 2XL. Again, sizes small through 2XL. Go to PayPal, $30 buck@counterflowpodcast.com. Give me your address in there and the t-shirt will be yours. Funny, you just say disembodied. I was thinking about that and you were talking about people scrolling and giving their attention. I can't exactly explain what this is, but when I see, let's say, coworkers nonstop scrolling reels, I don't do that for one, and I'm not trying to brag like I'm cool or something, but it drives me crazy because it looks like they're disembodied. Like it's like when I watch Black Mirror, there's an episode where these two old buddies start playing this video game together and they end up doing pornography type things together. But the faces of my friends that do this look like that, where they're like it's just been taken over and it's just scroll. And I remember sitting behind a kid or a teenager or something in a movie theater and how fast they were scrolling. And it was like, you didn't even comprehend what you just saw. There's no possible way, but you like moved to the next one. I asked a young guy in his 20s once, what are you scrolling? And he said, reels. And I said, what did you type in for it? And he goes, nothing. I just went to the home page. And I said, why are you watching them? And he goes, because it's just interesting. What's interesting about it? I don't know. It's just funny. So it's like a disembodied man who has shut off all his own control and is now under the control of whatever's happening on the screen. Am I off on that?
No, I mean, it's an addiction. It's an addiction. And it's not that the person is disembodied. It's actually that the person is possessed. The person is filled with the spirit. So they're in the zone, right? That what they would call the zone of proximal development, or being in the zone, where you're just like, boom, I'm there, and I'm like, I'm not even conscious. It's just, it's going, it's moving. You know, when an athlete when they get hot, and like you don't want to it's just like, I can't miss a shot. I can't miss, right? And the thing is, athletes who are trained and professionals, they know that when they get hot, they have to like clear out everything out of their mind and just let themselves be hot. Like, don't even think about it, right? You just go, because what's happening is you're being inhabited by a spirit at that moment. You're being inhabited by a spirit. It's not you. So that guy, it's not him scrolling. It's a spirit that's scrolling. And that spirit, the reason it can move so fast is because it's beyond human. It's operating at a level of cognition that's higher than a human being and faster than a human being. And it's looking for certain things. And it's also training. So the other thing is that the algorithm, how it's operating is, the algorithm is paying attention to how long you're staying on each thing. And the longer you stay on a thing, the more of that type of thing it will show you. So what the algorithm is trying to do is it's steadily, and the algorithm's one thing, AI is another thing. When you add in the AI, it gets real crazy. Right now, the algorithm, and I talk about this in the attention economy, which was years ago that I did this video series. That Reels algorithm is relying upon Reels that are created for the moment. Elon is changing this. That's his goal. But the Reels are created by people, ostensibly. A lot of them use AI to do it, to speed it up. But the people have to take it and they have to upload it. And now there's a bucket of things for it to choose from. And it's trying to refine and narrow it down so it can get you to a point. Ultimately, what it wants is for you to watch the whole thing, that it's got your content curated so good that you watch the whole thing on every single one and you never take your eyes off of it and you don't even sleep, right? But what it had, that's its goal. That's its goal. The goal, the entire utility function of the Reels algorithm of all, and mind you, they're on everything. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube. It's on Instagram. It's on Twitter now, where it will just keep playing these short videos. That is what social media is. Social media is not interacting with people anymore. Social media is doom scrolling. That's what it's reached because they know that's what gets the most attention. And Elon has said he's bringing back Vine, which was the shortest videos, but it's going to be all made by AI, his AI, because that's the next step, isn't it? That it's like, okay, the algorithm says this person wants this thing. They want to look at this exact thing. We've got a description of the thing that will hold his attention forever. And now if you have enough compute, AI can just make an endless stream of those that you will not stop watching. They're all artificial. They're all made up. If you like conspiracy theories, it's going to create some wild conspiracy theories on the fly. You'll be like, what is this? 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 And now you're in your own, now you're completely possessed. It controls the whole, because you don't know, is this real? Is this not real? Is this an actual thing? But you also don't care. And even if you tell yourself, oh, I know this is fake. I know this is fake. It doesn't matter if you're watching it 15 hours a day. Your mind is not equipped to be able to cause it. No, it's seeping in there and it's affecting how you react in everyday life. Or you start to wish that the world was more like that. And if you desire the world to be more like that, the world starts to get more like that. If more people desire the world to be a way, the world will start to become that way because we'll take little actions throughout the day. And if billions of people are doing that, you've transformed the world. And there's your AntiChrist.
Yes, I was just thinking that. You're describing also the Orthodox Church, but that's the good version of it. If you start to think this way and attend these services and look at the world through the lens of orthodoxy, it starts to become that way. Unfortunately, like what we're also talking about now is the inversion of like that good stuff, and you're looking at the world in this weird, twisted, fake way. And the more you do that, lo and behold, it's going to happen.
Well, absolutely. And I think, there was this, there were stories that were coming out. I don't know if it's happening so much anymore because I think we've moved past the generation. I think the younger generation is probably not getting it. Well, maybe they are getting the plastic surgery. But one of the things that plastic surgeons were noticing was that women were coming into them with like their Instagram feeds of their faces filtered. Yes. And they were asking the surgeons to give them the face of the filter that was created by AI. Right. So this is a microcosm of that. Now do it writ large, right? To where, no, I want the world to shape itself in the way that the AI has shaped. Because what the AI is going to show you, what you have to understand is because, look, nothing captures a human being's attention like a mirror. And especially the more narcissistic we become as a society. I mean, look at women taking selfies, right? Look at how often, like most of it is not about the selfie. Most of it is about looking at myself. And it's not just women, it's men too, right? Obviously. But it's like, that is going to capture your attention. So what's the AI going to start showing you on your reels? Well, it's going to be you as the hero. It's going to be you as the hero in the video. It's going to be talking to you. It's going to be using your name. That's what's going to be happening. And so then people will start to be like, oh, that's me. that's not the way you're treating me. It's not the way, it's not who look, we're already experiencing it. Like the whole trans thing is like just part of no, I want to be addressed as how I identify, right? No, you don't understand. That doesn't have anything to do. It's just getting you to identify as something you're not. It's not about the degeneracy. It's just getting you to identify as something that you're not. And it doesn't have to be that extreme. It just has to take you away from the worship of Christ. That's it. And it'll be much more subtle. And it'll be the subtlety that allows people to make that, oh, there's no harm here. Oh, that's not it. But you start to want people to treat you the way that you see yourself. I see myself on the screen, so I want people to treat me that way. It is so and everything that I'm saying, I think we've come far enough now that nobody should look at the thing that I'm saying and be like, oh, that's conjecture. Everything that I've just said is inevitable, and the people building it have told you they're building it already.
All right. We don't have too much time left. And I know I'm going to ask you about a topic that you know a ton about, and you could go on for hours about it.
I won't go on too long.
I have taken your Bitcoin class. I have read Saifuddin Amos's book on Bitcoin. Your class, his book, helped me a lot. I'm still like, someone can ask me about it, and it's like, I just say, look, I don't know much. Here, go to this resource. Because it's a lot to understand. Kudos to people like you who have grasped a giant knowledge of it. What is going on with the Bitcoin? And I believe it's the Trump administration has approved an executive order with some sort of government Bitcoin reserve. Talk about where we're at with Bitcoin now. I know it's not probably correct to just focus on number go up type of thing. But where's it at right now? And what does this reserve, what impact does that have on Bitcoin itself and then us as well? Okay,
so what's important to understand, and what I've been trying to explain to people for a very, very long time, is that the Bitcoin number go up, Bitcoin reserve, all of that is that's all a grift. Okay, that's all a grift. And that has been a grift since 2014. The Trump administration, so in that regard, it's like a misdirection. Have people looking at even the Safedien stuff and all of that, like everything Safedien is writing about in his book, now, as of today, can never come to fruition. And the reason why, the real thing, forget about the Bitcoin reserve. That was just like, it was a rebranding of Bitcoin that has already been seized. Like, criminal cases or whatever, they seized some amount of Bitcoin. The government already had it. Trump signed an executive order. He said, we're renaming that the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. But they already had it. They're not buying new Bitcoin. They're not doing it. And much to the chagrin of the number go up guys, right? What's really happening, what people need to really understand is Bitcoin is a global payment network. And the killer app, that is the thing that is like that Bitcoin does, is Bitcoin allows you to tokenize US dollars and to send them basically instantly without going through a bank. And those are stable coins. And the first stable coin ever was Tether USDT. And that was issued on BTC, on Bitcoin, using a token protocol on Bitcoin in 2014. Okay. As of last year, the company Tether USDT, it has the highest daily volume in terms of trades of any cryptocurrency. It is the world reserve cryptocurrency. It is 1-to-1 backed with the US dollar. There is about $160 billion worth of Tether in circulation. And for every one of those Tether in circulation, there is $1, a real US dollar in reserve. But what Tether does with those dollars is Tether goes and buys US debt. It buys US treasuries. Now, those purchases of what it's holding right now, short-term US treasuries, is probably to the tune, we don't know exactly, but it's probably to the tune of $120 to $130 billion worth of US treasuries with the high interest rates that they have. So that has meant that last year, Tether made a profit. Now, this is a profit. This isn't revenue. This is what they get to take away with them, of $13 billion last year. They have under 200 employees, And at the time, they didn't even have a physical corporate office. They've now decamped to El Salvador, and they're going to make El Salvador their home. Trump just signed the Genius Act, which basically legalizes stablecoins in the United States and puts a stablecoin regime. You'll notice that Nayib Bukele stopped having Bitcoin as legal tender, but has brought these guys in, the Tether guys. They're building a giant skyscraper called Tether Tower. And the head of Tether, the CEO, Paulo Arduino, was standing behind Trump in DC when he signed this thing into law. And has already said, yes, we're working with El Salvador. There's a carve out for foreign operators. This is what it is. Here's what's important to understand about Tether and the Trump administration. The individual who came up with the reserve strategy and investment strategy for Tether, which is buying all of these U.S. treasuries, is a gentleman named Howard Lutnick. Now, he came up with that when he was still just the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. You can go if you look up Howard Lutnick Bitcoin Conference. Both Trump and RFK spoke at this. This is where Trump talked about the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. But importantly, Howard Lutnick talked about his relationship with Tether. Cantor Fitzgerald is what is called a primary dealer. It means that they can basically buy and sell U.S. treasuries just like cash instantly to the tune of billions at a time if Tether needs liquidity. In other words, if somebody comes to redeem tokens for U.S. dollars, no problem. Even if they come with 100 billion, Tether can redeem it through Cantor Fitzgerald. Howard Lutnick came to the people at Tether. He said, Cantor Fitzgerald wants to be your banker. We want to do this. Obviously, Cantor Fitzgerald gets it. Cantor Fitzgerald is making billions off of doing this for Tether. Now, Howard Lutnick then goes on to be the co-chair of Trump's transition team and basically the HR for all of Trump's secretaries. Howard Lutnick did the talent search and decided who was a candidate. He talked about this on the All In podcast. He talked about exactly how they did it. It was crazy. But he was basically HR for Trump in terms of choosing his appointees, thousands of them. It all went through Howard Lutnick. And he is now the Secretary of Commerce, that existing Secretary of Commerce. Okay? Stable coins are the key to US dollar hegemony. Scott Bessent has described the importance of stable coins is that it basically creates an unlimited valve for the US to sell debt universally to anyone. Because anyone who out in the market goes and buys Tether, doesn't matter where you are. You could be in Iran, you buy Tether, what you're doing is you're buying US debt. You could be in China, you buy Tether, you're actually buying US debt. You're in Russia and China and you want to buy Tether so that you can evade sanctions, you end up buying US debt. You end up buying US treasuries with it. You're actually loaning your money to the US government. This is the key, and it runs on blockchains, including Bitcoin networks, Ethereum, Solana, all of it. So what this is this is a complete upsetting of the banking system that we knew to the benefit of the issuers of this new type of stablecoin and to the benefit of the US that will now be able to have unlimited borrowing and dollarize the world with a digital currency that it can control now, that it can seize if it wants to, because if you're under you look at the Genius Act regulation, it says that if the government comes to you and says you have to seize this, you have to seize it or lose your license. So this is what is happening. And so what you're going to see over the next few years is all of the banks going in on stablecoins and all of this. And what you have to understand is they're running on Bitcoin networks. They're running on Ethereum. They're running on Solana. All of these. That's what the real game is. The Bitcoin stuff, the buy Bitcoin, that's just the red meat that's thrown out there to keep the crypto bros in the game and supporting the Trump administration, which is also what the permutation of the sentence it was a full pardon. The full pardon of Ross Ulbricht was that as well. They have to, the kayfabe that they have to play about, we're pro crypto and all of this, but the real game is basically there's a group of people, it's that traditional Orwellian, the middle, the high, the middle, and the low. It's Silicon Valley becoming the new Rothschilds. That's what this is. Tether is the new Rothschilds.
Okay.
And it's about tokenized fiat running on blockchains. Everything I've just said, people just look it up. It's all right there in front of you. It's dead obvious what's going on. But they have to distract you with the buy Bitcoin. there's a 4-year Bitcoin cycle. We are probably going to be in a bull run. The 4-year cycle has happened 3 times already. This will be the 4th one. It looks like it. It'll probably go up in the winter, and then it'll crash in the spring around February, the BTC price. But chances are this will be the last one because we've now actually got US laws. This is in place for the stable coins. The banks are now going to be able to play when the Clarity Act is finally signed. And so this will probably be the last. The cycle will look different, and it may be the end of Bitcoin number go up completely, possibly. We'll have to see. But if the number goes up, it's still because people have the old narrative and they don't understand what's really going on with the stable coins.
Wow. Okay. We did it. We just squeezed it right in under the hour. That's perfect. Cyprian, thanks for being here. Anything to plug now?
No. Well, actually, yeah. So I am working as the head of product for Truth Network, which is truf.network. And what we are building it's one of the coolest things. My good friend Stefan Rust, who was CEO of Bitcoin.com when I was there, when I was an executive over there, asked me to come on board and take a look at this thing. It's very, very cool. And what it's all about is data and particularly pricing data to be able to bring it into what are called prediction markets. So people could, like Poly Market, where you could bet on who's going to win the outcome of an election. But there have been some very interesting research papers, even as far back as Hal Finney in 2008, within the crypto community and the libertarian community, of how these types of markets, if they're constructed correctly, can be used to really predict, for instance, what will be the economic effect of one candidate versus another in a very realistic and accurate way of which one of these candidates will actually have higher wages for the American people? Which one of these candidates would actually lower taxes? That type of thing. And there's been many academic papers written on it. It's needed a source of truth. We created a very cool blockchain that works with other blockchains at Truth Network, and we're rolling out this product. I'm super excited. I haven't been this excited about anything in a very long time. So it's definitely something to look at. The prediction market space is going to grow like gangbusters. And if people are looking for a token in this bull run, I never say go and buy tokens, but go check out the project and see what we're doing. And if you believe in us, there's kind of a way to buy in on it. So I think it's going to be incredible, and I'm having a great time working on it. So that's truth.network, TRUF.network. I think people should check it out.
TRUF.
Yep.
.network. Is that what you said?
.network. Yes, sir.
.network. Okay, I'll link to that too in the show notes page. Cyprian, we miss you and Father Turbo every week, but it's wonderful to see you on here, sir.
Absolutely.
And Andrew, we miss Andrew too.
Yes, of course. How do you not miss Andrew? I miss him too.
Yes. All right. I hope you guys learned a lot and gained a lot from this interview. Thanks again, Cyprian, for being back on the show. Always wonderful to hear from you, sir. For you guys, please hit subscribe on the YouTube page. Let's get the algorithm going, if that makes sense. Follow me on X at BuckRebel, BuckRebel. I did not run an ad for our Ludwell conference on this particular episode because we are about at max capacity. So if you are interested in going, there might be 1 or 2 spots left. You better check quick at southernorthodox.org. Again, we have sold far more than the last 2 years and about at max capacity. So I appreciate you guys that are going. I look forward to seeing you there. And until next week, you guys have a good one. God bless.
Like the sound of the Counterflow Podcast? Our audio production is provided by Podsworth Media. Check them out at podsworth.com.
This has been